Hi, I'm Jared Falk, and today we're going to teach you exactly how we mic all of our cymbals, the hi-hat, and the ride cymbal. And so I brought in the drumlessons.com sound engineer, Victor Guidera, to help out with showing us exactly how he gets these amazing sounds. And then before you start, I want to say having a good bass or having good cymbals to start with is going to give you a really, really, really nice cymbal sound. So I absolutely love these cymbals.
Yeah.
But the overheads, I'm assuming, are for more than just that. They're also to capture some of the room sound of the drums. So why don't you just take it away and start with, telling us what we're using up here as far as the overheads go, and what other options do they have, as price-wise, budget-wise, and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So what we use are, again, Shure brand SM94s on the overheads. They're kind of middle of the road price-wise, and the sound reproduction that you get from them, they get what we want for a decent price.
Yeah, because I find you can spend a lot of money on overheads.
You can easily spend $2,000 on one microphone, and which I've used $2,000 microphones on the overheads as well. And but it doesn't really take a very expensive mic to get what you want. And these 94s, I believe, are somewhere around $300, $250 or so. So
each.
Yeah, a piece. Yeah.
And what other options do they have if someone has a budget of $75 and they want to do overhead mics? Can they use like an SM57? Do they have to use, like, what's the difference between these mics and a 57, or like the mics that we're using on the toms?
So what we're using here are condensers as the overheads. They're more sensitive, generally a little bit more expensive, and they reproduce the high end a lot better. So it works really well for an overall representation of the kit. Cymbals, the kit, the room, even get a little bit more ambience in the overhead microphones. You could just throw up a SM57 or a pair of them as overheads. It'd be $100, and you could get the job done. And you just EQ and process them just according to try to get that high end back. But again, we've spent kind of middle of the road and gotten these microphones, and I just love the sound that they produce.
So what other options do they have budget-wise? Like these are around $250 each. What can they get for $50?
Yeah, I would recommend probably secondary as a lower end choice would be Apex brand. They got some great small diaphragm pencil condensers that are just awesome for the price and the sound that they reproduce. So.
Cool. So with that said, can you just tell us a little bit about the positioning of these, the distance away from the cymbals, the positioning and the distance away from the cymbals? That'd be best.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the fact that we're using two microphones as the overall representation of the kit. Generally, when we're creating a mix or even a live mix, we mix to two speakers, left and right. So that's what we're representing by the two microphones, left and a right. And they actually, when they're panned in the mix, they're panned hard left and hard right. So you get this really nice wide image of the kit and the overall, the shells. You can kind of hear the toms pan left to right. So now I'll talk about the distance. What I generally like to do is about an arm's length away from the cymbal. And I like to have them at as close as an even height away from the kit as I can. Sometimes you'll find that a drummer or yourself will have this certain amount of cymbals raised up quite a bit. And then you may want to compensate the one microphone just a little bit to go higher. But generally, you want to have them equidistant. And some guys, there could be some great comments going on here, will swear by the fact that you've got to equally measure out the overheads away from the snare drum. If that works for you and you want to do that, go for it.
Like the middle? The
middle of the snare drum, and you would measure from each of the microphones out. Yeah,
it's important to tell people in all these videos that we film that these are our techniques and what we use. There's not a Bible of how to mic the drum so that you have to follow 100% or anything like that. So this is just our ideas. If they work for you, great. If not, make up your own and let us know exactly what's working for you. So that's a really good idea. One thing I wanted to mention here is because I just got this new cymbal, Pice D Alpha, and I've actually almost created another level of cymbals. Now, would you change anything based on this?
For me, no, I wouldn't, and you can see that I haven't. I've done that on purpose because that specifically is a little bit of an effects cymbal. It's not going to be used that much. You're not going to go to it and crash on it all the time.
Sounds pretty good though, so I hit it quite a bit.
It does, okay. Well, and I haven't heard that. That's a brand new cymbal. I haven't heard that. So after you play around, I may make a small adjustment. Don't be afraid to move stuff after you start playing and hearing what the mix actually sounds like.
Cool. So then as far as like distance apart from each other, this is based on the kit or?
Yeah, so well, distance both apart and in this direction, I basically try to take the toms and the snare and put the microphones in this depth in the center of that.
Okay.
So right now, if the kit is about, you know, this wide, I have the overheads in the middle of that.
Yeah, if the kit is a 4 foot wide across, you put it at the 2 foot mark, right in between.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then spacing, width, I like to have it pretty much just inside of the outside of the cymbals. Okay. So if the outside of the cymbals is just in a little bit, and then
so like a foot, almost like a foot in on either side of the drum set. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool, so now can you tell us a little bit about how you mic the hi-hat and what type of mic you use there?
Right, so we use AKG C430s on both the hi-hat and the ride and the auxiliary hat that you have. Okay. Normally, I like to just bring the microphone in, have it above the hats, and point it down like so.
Away from everything else.
Away from everything else again, exactly. But for aesthetics and the way that we have our cameras set up, we just put the microphone underneath. And I find that the sound isn't too different from up here.
And that was my thing. I know when I first started working with Victor, he put it on top of the hi-hat. I'm like, no, because I like just like super clean look as possible. But so he compromised and then put it underneath, and I think it sounds all right. But
yeah, and generally, even in the mix that we have running, the hi-hat microphone is mixed in not too much anyway. So it's very lowly mixed in. So.
Okay. So normally you'd have this one just on an angle pointing a little bit away. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just going to place it in here underneath.
Okay.
Okay. So it's almost a mirror image of where it would be on the top, but it's on the bottom.
And then pointing away.
Just slightly, yeah.
Cool. And now, what would you do on the ride cymbal over here? Now, I know you said you like to capture, because I have an auxiliary hi-hat set up, so you like to try and capture the ride and the hi-hats with one microphone.
So first of all, I don't always throw a microphone on the ride, but that is, it's a characteristic thing. I just seem to like it over the years, and I really like your cymbals. So I'd like generally to have another close mic on the ride so that I can accent it just a little bit more in the mix. So I'm going to grab it here. Okay, so what I've done with the ride mic now, because Jared has a unique setup, he's got an auxiliary set of hi-hats. I'm not going to throw up yet another microphone on the hats as well as the ride. I'm just going to take that same ride microphone and just put it in between. This is totally unique to Jared's setup, so that's just a choice that I made. I don't feel that I need another microphone to accent it, and I can get them both in there, and I'm pretty happy with it.
Cool. Well, thanks for sharing this tips with us, man. This is like huge, and I learned some things that I didn't know as far as positioning and where it should go as far as being in the center of the drum set. So some great tips for you guys, and I hope you guys can try them out next time you're at a live gig or you're in the studio. Always remember just to work really, really good with the sound engineer. Don't tick them off. You don't want to like tell them how to position their mics because everyone does things a little bit differently. But you know, have fun with it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.